What's up and welcome back to Bardown Talking Hockey, episode number 180, presented by the Barroom Network. It is the home of everything related to the greatest league in the world, the NHL. My name is Vinnie Parisi, and I still believe the New Jersey Devils are going to win the Stanley Cup. And this right here, this is Frankie Mueller, and he is the king of all beans. Frank, Jordan flu game for me, but I'm hockey tough. I'm hockey tough.
You got to push through it, VP.
I would do this show with a collapsed lung and a hole in my whatever, like Patrice Bergeron did in the 2013 Stanley Cup final. No, I think it was, what do you have? He had a hole in his lung and then a collapsed rib cage or something like that. It was something ridiculous. And then Chara played in the 2019 Stanley Cup final with like a mangled jaw. He had like 4 different pieces of his jaw in like the wrong spot.
Looked like he was in a Saw movie.
It really did. And Chara kind of has like a funny like shaped head as it is. So it was like just hilarious seeing these guys grind through. But yeah, Jordan flu game for me. Chara broken jaw game for me. But we're here to rock, not to pat myself on the back.
Isn't it crazy? We've done 180 of these.
180 of these bitches. We'll do something special for episode 200 for sure.
What's up, Travis? He's got a Christmas party today, so you can enjoy the show on a day off.
Let's go, Travis. Happy Christmas.
A good Christmas party.
Oh, a good Christmas party is unbelievable. You play games, you have some interesting food. People are just seem to be a little more jolly this time of year, so we are happy to take you through some of the hockey news that's going on during this time. And Frank, we are going to do that with the biggest story in the hockey world. Well, now it's the second biggest story in the hockey. When I wrote this sheet, it was the top hockey story in the world. Now it's the second biggest, but we will talk about both. Frankie's not prepared for the second one in period number 1. I assume you are prepared for the second one, or at least know what I'm talking about. It has to do with the New York Rangers and their captain.
I don't know.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll get to that. And I didn't put it on the sheet because it didn't happen when I wrote the sheet. So we'll rapid fire from the hip, no scoping, frickin' this news after we talk about the fact that the Chicago Blackhawks, your favorite team, fired their head coach Luke Richardson. The Chicago Blackhawks are currently in 32nd place in the NHL out of 32 with a record of 8-16-2 for 18 standing points. Their .346 points percentage is the lowest in the NHL. Only the Nashville Predators joined the Blackhawks as teams with a under .400 winning percentage. Frank, as the guy who is a Blackhawks fan, what is your immediate reaction? Oh, and I must point out that in Luke Richardson's place with the Chicago Blackhawks is Rockford IceHogs head coach. He will be the interim head coach of the Chicago Blackhawks, Anders Sorensen. And then Mark Eaton, the head of development for the Chicago Blackhawks, also assistant to the GM, will take over as Rockford's interim head coach for the rest of the season. Frank, what are your thoughts?
When this news came out on Wednesday, major shock to me. This is something that didn't even cross my mind. There are some coaching changes that you kind of see coming. There's murmurs here and there, but this was not one of them for me.
Like Eberflus.
Right. Like you knew Eberflus was going to be fired. I was shocked that it happened mid-season because it's never happened before. But you knew it was coming nonetheless. You knew he wasn't making it through next season. Now, Kyle Davidson's reasoning for firing in simpler terms is that the team is not performing up to expectations on where they should be at this point this year in the rebuild. Should they be a playoff team at this point in the rebuild? No. Should they be better than last place in the league this season? Absolutely, yes. I mean, this team should be performing a lot better in the league, a lot better than what we've seen this year, given where they're at during this rebuilding process. I think the thing that's upset me the most about the Hawks this year is that they've blown more multi-goal leads than I would like to remember. I think Kyle Davidson wants to try and keep this rebuild on track, and he's not liked the way that this team has performed under Luke Richardson's duties. Yes, the team he was coaching is not a good team overall. It isn't like they were picked to go anywhere with this team, but it's more about underperforming at a league worst. You're not necessarily a playoff contender, but going into this year, I also wasn't hoping for a number 1 pick either, which is kind of the way things are going, that they're going to be in number 1 pick contention. We weren't expecting that. So I could see where Kyle Davidson is going and coming from in terms of that. And I'm going to put my trust in him since I've liked what I've seen from him so far during this rebuild. And like you said, Anders Sorensen's been named the interim head coach for ex Rockford Ice Hogs head coach for the season. And then once the season ends, and they're in the off season, the Blackhawks will conduct a full coaching search. It was very interesting news. It shocked me beyond belief, but I'm gonna hope Davidson knows what he's doing, and we'll see where they go from here. But
so I'll touch on Davidson in a second. I do want to say I really like Luke Richardson, the person.
too.
Um,
It's a good guy.
Yeah, I'll always remember him as the first head coach of the Hawks on the first year I was on the beat. That will always be the answer of a Vinnie Parisi trivia question. Hey, who was the first coach you ever covered while being inside the building on a regular basis? The answer is Luke Richardson, and that'll never change. And I really did like being in his press conferences because I've watched others on YouTube or TV or social media, whatever. A lot of coaches give like bland, like condescending answers every time they speak.
Mm-hmm.
Someone would ask Luke Richardson a question and he would break it down like a hockey nerd on a podcast. He'd get into the X's and O's. Oh, Taylor Hall should have actually been covering this guy in the slot, and Connor Bedard should have been up high over here covering. And he would like name the opponents by their names. It was like listening to like a PG rated version of Spit and Chicklets or a PG even version of this show. Mm-hmm. And I did appreciate that because you never know what you're going to get when they hire a coach, what kind of bland, vanilla answers. Like when you listen to Matt Eberflus speak at a press conference after a game, yeah, it was about execution and we didn't execute. Yeah, we felt comfortable with the game plan and we just didn't execute. Same word salad over it. That was not Luke Richardson. He would give a hard breakdown no matter what after every game, and I appreciated him for that. He made stories easier to write. I did not see it coming when he spoke after the Bruins game. He did not sound like a man who was defeated or losing his job. He was actually yucking it up with a couple of the Bruins staff after that press conference. I saw him in the hallway, and it did not strike me as this type of situation. And then the rumors started to swirl around like 3:30 on Wednesday afternoon, and I was like, no way. Like, this team's not expected to be good. Are they expected to be better than they are? Yeah. But I do think it's a combination of Kyle and Luke on why they're underperforming so far this year. Listen, Kyle's done a great job drafting. And we'll touch on some of the Rockford stuff in a bit, but I really like some of the guys that are on the Rockford Ice Hogs. Kevin Korchinski, Artem Levshinov, Frank Nazar, who's second in the AHL in scoring, only behind Bartlett High School's own Vinnie and Frank. Wouldn't that be crazy if Hinestroza wins the AHL scoring title? It's very possible. And so I like the way he's drafted. The free agent signings and trades haven't been great. That's just a fact. Tyler Bertuzzi's irrelevant at 5-on-5. Taylor Hall's been hurt. I'm not going to crap. I liked the Hall trade when they made it because Hall has played well with other number one picks in the past. Heischer, Hughes, Owen Power, Rasmus Dahlin, Connor McDavid. He's been around for some first overall picks, and he's helped them. So I do think injury plays a little bit in it with Hall, so I'm not going to get on him for that. And the Foligno trade was wonderful. But, like, Teuvo Teravainen looks lost. Brody, not great. Martinez is hurt all the time, and he wasn't particularly great against the Bruins. He was clearly hurting after blocking that shot, though I don't even know why he came back in the game. He was on the ice for every Bruins goal. But it's just one of those things, like they once they announced the trade or the firing, my initial reaction was I was shocked. And then I did some deep thinking on it, and I'm like, I mean, what else are you going to do? You're the worst team in the league. You probably shouldn't be. At least at minimum, Connor Bedard hasn't looked like Connor Bedard for about a month now. Now, is he in that 12-game goal-scoring slump? No, he's got a couple goals since then, and he's been a little bit better lately, but he hasn't found that consistency yet with being a highly productive offensive player in this league. And he's only 19 years old, which is something people also have to remember. Not everybody's Connor McDavid or Austin Matthews, where at 19 they're already a top 3 player on their team, let alone in the league. Bedard is probably following the Jack Hughes, Nathan McKinnon route a little bit more, where like they become 100-point guys 3 or 4 years into their career after some development and frankly playing on some crap teams. Colorado was brutal that year McKinnon had 30-something points in his second year. The Devils were brutal until 2 years ago, and last year. But Hughes was developed enough by last year where it didn't affect him. But same thing with Bedard. It's going to happen. Luke Richardson is a very defensive-minded coach. In that game where Connor Bedard broke out, I think it was against Dallas, he scored and had an assist. If someone asked him about him after the game, and he was like, yeah, he was good, but this still needs to be worked on defense. And that was the one time I truly disagreed with something Luke Richardson said in the press conference. Defense? Bedard? You took him number 1 overall pick. You didn't take him as the number 1 overall pick to play defense. Not everybody's Nico Hischier, and when they're 18 years old, step into the league and be stout defensively. In fact, that's more rare than being a 100-point guy in your first year. So I do think Anders Sorensen will come from Rockford, where he has been doing a very nice job with some of these young guys, and I think he will push Connor Bedard. Hey, kid, go out there. If there's a 2-on-1 against because you tried to make a spectacular play, I do think that'll be a little bit more allowed. He'll be a little more free with Sorensen as the head coach. We'll see, obviously. Practice today was a lot of drills, practicing like tape-to-tape passes and stuff like that. I just couldn't believe against the Bruins how much puck watching they did. The Bruins were zipping it around like nobody's business. It's not like the Bruins are this powerhouse anymore. They got good players. They're a better team than the Hawks. They're Hall of Famers on that team. But are they like vehemently better than, some of the top contenders in the league? No. If you had a team like Edmonton or Florida and they just came in and dog walked them, like sometimes that happens. But I look back and I'm like, they're lost to 4 straight. They weren't even competitive against the Bruins. Vlasic scored a minute in, and then there was crap from there. And it's just, now that he's gone, you move on to Anders Sorensen, who I can't say I've watched a Rockford Ice Hogs game this season. They're not on TV around here, but it's a situation where there's been a lot of good young players on that team, and Frank Nazar. Let me see Frank Nazar's exact. I have the AHL. So he's second in the AHL with 24 points in 18 games. He has 11 goals and 13 assists playing for the Rockford Ice Hogs. And we see Colton Dock scores a lot, and Levshinov's been good. Korchinski makes plays on the back end. He's a good skater. We'll see if he's ever able to round out his game completely. But it'll be interesting. Sorensen is the first Swedish-born head coach in NHL history.
Wow.
I didn't realize that till today either. But it's pretty cool. And I do think overall, this is a move that the Blackhawks needed to make. I just didn't expect them to make it when they did. Because there are 2 other instances earlier this year where I thought they could have done it. And when they didn't, I thought they wouldn't. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
When Taylor Hall went to the media after the Vancouver game, and told them that he had no clue he was going to be healthy scratched, and he was completely caught off guard, and he didn't know why he was healthy scratched. He thought he was playing well lately. I thought there was a chance Luke might be let go after that. Then a couple weeks later, the Boston Bruins decide to fire Jim Montgomery, who has ties to the organization in multiple ways. And they didn't fire Luke Richardson to bring him in. Now he's the head coach of a division rival and probably will be for a long time. Once those 2 events passed, I told myself it's not going to happen this season. And then 2 weeks later, boom, it happened. You don't have Montgomery. It's a weird time. It's a very weird time. I'm excited to see how they bounce back, though. It's not like it's going to be easy, though, with let's see where they stand in the standings right now. Oh, the second in the NHL, tied for the most points in the NHL, Winnipeg Jets, 19-8-0, coming into the United Center with a 704 winning percentage, a plus 29 goal differential. They are 9-2-0 on home ice and 10-6-0 on the road, and are currently on a 1-game winning streak as Winnipeg coming to the United Center to play the Hawks for the first time in the Anders Sorensen era.
It's kind of funny, though. The Hawks will probably end up winning that game. The few wins that the Hawks have this season have been over very good teams. They've beaten Florida, Edmonton. They got another one in there.
Minnesota, team. Dallas.
They beat Dallas.
They beat Minnesota.
I mean, their wins. They got good wins in there. They'll probably beat the Jets too.
Yeah, they lost to the Leafs, but okay, I see they beat out of the top 15 teams in the league. They've beaten Edmonton, Dallas, Florida, Minnesota, and they had a 1-0 lead over Winnipeg. In Winnipeg, you might remember this was like the third game of the season. They had a 1-0 lead against Winnipeg. Scheifele tied it in with the goalie pulled. They go to overtime and lose. I think Scheifele scored again. They played Winnipeg hard.
Tough.
100%. 100%.
And I'm excited to see Sorensen, get a chance in the NHL for the Blackhawks. I've heard a lot of high praise from guys from the Rockford Ice Hogs that say, he's a great communicator. He's knows how to coach these young guys well. I'm all for giving guys who haven't had an experience a chance, right? We've seen it a lot with the Blackhawks, and I just hope that, if they don't see that little sparkle from Sorensen for the remainder of the season, I really, really hope they just go out and get a veteran coach who's gotten their feet wet in the NHL. We've seen Derek King. We've seen Jeremy Colleton. We've seen Luke Richardson, all who didn't have head coaching experience in the NHL, and now Sorensen. If it doesn't work out, I wish they would have got Jim Montgomery, but go out and get a veteran. All these other teams do it. Dan Bilesma made his return for the Seattle Kraken. Go out and get a veteran. It's not working. We've given so many guys chances. I think maybe Sorensen will be a little bit different than the Colleton, King, or Richardson, because of, he's coached in a lot of bigger games. But I don't know. I want that veteran guy that's got that reputation in the NHL. I've always wanted that, and we'll see what happens. But they're gonna do what's best for them. If they see that Sorensen has really turned this franchise around in the second half of the season, or at least looked a little more competitive, not choking multi-goal leads nearly all the time, it's so annoying. Maybe he'll get the head coaching job, but I'm all for it. But if not, we got to get somebody in there who's been around the league a bit.
Yeah, I mean, since firing Joel, they have hired 4 straight rookie head coaches.
Yeah.
Which I think you just said. It's time, I think, to bring in a guy who has been there, done. Unless Sorensen gets Bedard back on like a 100-point pace and they start winning a crap ton of games, like then you keep him. He's a highly regarded person in hockey.
Mm-hmm.
I actually learned from one of the people, Michael Trakos from the Hockey News, one of the lead bosses at the Hockey News, that he is someone who has worked with William Nylander since he was 7 years old. And that's very interesting to me that he has that kind of, resume in this league. And I can't believe a Swedish coach has never been
that's weird.
A head coach in the NHL. And, Michael did point out that there's a lot of untapped potential in that Swedish market to bring some of these guys over to the NHL and see what they can do. And we'll see if that changes things for the Blackhawks and gets them going. Mark Eaton being the head coach in Rockford, I'm not sure how I feel about that. We'll see.
That's weird to me.
I don't know if Rockford needs to win games this year, but I definitely think they need to have a winning culture and develop some of these guys. I have a horrible feeling I'm going to end up being so right about the 2024 draft. That's just one thing that sticks in the back of my head when it comes to evaluating Kyle, which I think a lot of GMs in the league would have sided with Kyle on that at the time. Yeah, and I like Levshinov. I just think Mr. Leading Scorer for Denver's blue line. But here's the thing, though. 10 other teams also passed on him, including my team, the New Jersey Devils. So, it's not like it's very similar to I don't think Zeev Bouillon's going to become the GOAT the way Patrick Mahomes has, but everybody gets on the Bears for passing on him, right? Well, 10 other teams also passed on him. He went 11th or 10th, whatever it was. Bears aren't the only team that has crappy quarterback play historically that passed on him. The Hawks aren't the only team that passed on Buyam. They're not the only team that passed on Demidov. Maybe Levshinov will be a legit shutdown defenseman. That's what we're hoping for. But hopefully Mark Eaton can help get the most out of those guys in Rockford, and then Sorensen could come up here into the NHL and get it going. So, Frank, we can kind of move off that a little bit. We'll talk future coaching candidates for the Blackhawks later. Jay Woodcroft comes to mind. I think he'd be great. There's a couple other guys. Joel is not coming back. For people who keep saying that online, Joel Quenneville is not coming back. He'll be the coach of the Predators after they fire Andrew Brunette this offseason. So moving on, I think I'm going to inform you something for the first time.
I think so.
The New York Rangers are either going to put Jacob Trouba on waivers today, or they are going to trade him if he is willing to move his no trade clause to said team by end of day. So the New York Rangers are moving on from their captain, Jacob Trouba. He has likely played his last game in a Rangers uniform. What is your initial reaction to hearing this news?
Well, kind of wasn't expecting that either. A lot of unexpected news coming from the NHL. Well, he's kind of stunk lately, hasn't he? Though he just hasn't been He hasn't been Jacob Trouba-esque. Like you mentioned him, it's like I really haven't even been thinking about him on the Rangers. I haven't heard anything about him. Yeah, I don't know. It's very strange. Who becomes the next captain then in your eyes? Do they name a captain right away?
No, because they probably move on from Kreider at some point too. It wouldn't shock me if Kreider's representing a different team when the Four Nations face-off comes around. Like, I do think they move on from him.
A mini rebuild?
Don't see. Well, yeah,
rebuild?
I think so, because it's a very tough situation. Now, I know the Devils like dog walk a lot of people they play. Like they have either close losses that are frustrating, or like they beat the crap out of people because of the offensive firepower. The way they worked Jacob Trouba in that game last Monday is like, I honestly think the reason that the Rangers kind of like, that was the final straw. He was horrible. And obviously I love to see it as a Devils fan in that game. But like when you're looking at the Rangers as a whole, even outside of Trouba, it's honestly remarkable what has happened to that team since being in the Eastern Conference Finals last year. Lafreniere, who got off to this awesome start last year after having a great season last year, signs this extension, right? And you're like, oh, if he somehow finds a way to take even another step, then that $7-8 million is going to be a bargain in the NHL in a couple years. And since signing that extension, he has been one of the worst players in the NHL.
He's been bad VP.
He's horrible. And Keandre Miller hasn't looked like himself this season. That's who I wanted the Hawks to draft in 2018. And the Rangers got him, and he's been great. Other than this year, he's been terrible.
Rangers have been a letdown.
Fox doesn't have a goal. Now, Fox has like 20-something assists, so it's not like he's paid to score goals anyway. He's paid to like make good breakout passes and defend well. He's not the best skater, but he's always in the right position. He's very smart with the way he head fakes and moves around with the puck and gets it up to guys like Panarin and stuff. But Fox, he should have a goal by now, right? Like that's a little weird. Mika Zibanejad is a shell of himself. I used to say there are 5 guys in the league with like a slap shot from Ovechkin's office that just looks different. He was one of them. And he just can't buy a goal these days. There was the open net where I couldn't believe he missed it. And every time they play the Devils, I get a little worried that the guys I talk crap about, that's going to be the game they score. And even then, like he wasn't able to get one. Kreider has 10 goals and no assists. Panarin is outstanding. Still, I think he'll be outstanding for at least a handful of more years, but it's not like they can build around a guy in his mid-30s now. Igor can't do everything, and even lately he's been playing like dog crap. He cost himself $3 or $4 million with the way he's played going into his next contract extension. Now, do I think Igor, much like Bobrovsky, if he goes to another team that's stout defensively, he'll look like old Igor again? Yeah, absolutely. Or even if the Rangers figure out a way to be stout defensively again. Igor is Igor. Like, do they fire Laviolette unexpectedly in the next couple weeks? Similar to the Hawks firing Richardson, except the expectations were significantly different. I don't know, but what do you think of the Rangers? It's tough.
They've been a disappointing team this year after how many 100-point seasons in a row for them? I don't even know. I don't have that stat, but they've always been, in recent memory, a 100-point team. They've always, when Alex Ovechkin went down for the Capitals, I said, if the Capitals can't get their act together at that point in time, the Rangers were like 2 to 4 points behind them in the standings, something like that. And now I'm taking a look at the standings here. They fell off a cliff. They're 9 points behind them. They're just not performing at all. They've sucked lately. Their defense has been atrocious. Something we talked about. I'm trying to go back and see. I wanted to look at something else. There's guys not performing. And you got guys on your team, defensemen, like, who aren't there to score points, right? They're there for more to be defensive defensemen. But this team is very top heavy, and even at the top, it's not too great. I mean, Panarin's got 13 goals, but he's not even. I mean, he's more than point per game, but I feel like, I don't know. I mean, Will Cawley is your second leading scorer. Adam Fox, like you said, can't buy a goal. Zibanejad, yeah, he's not what he used to be. Kreider probably would be the guy who gets the captaincy, but like you say, he's probably not even going to be with the team come Four Nations face-off. Yeah, I don't like this team on paper right now.
No, and like they are going through this panic, and they do hold a playoff spot. That's
and honestly, Igor Shesterkin, he hasn't been great either.
No, lately he's been terrible. Basically, ever since he demanded like the 14 million over 8 years or whatever the report was. You're not getting that, dude.
He's borderline getting in like the 800 save percentage category.
Yeah,
he's right
which
there.
I think league average is 902.
Yeah, which but this is like Igor.
Terrible. No, I get that.
Igor don't go by league average.
No. Here's the thing, though, Frank. I'm looking at the Eastern Conference playoffs right now. Washington, New Jersey, Carolina, top 3 in the Metro. Toronto, Florida, Boston, top 3 in the Atlantic. Wild cards, Tampa Bay, and New York Rangers. Then you look directly below the playoff line. Flyers have the same amount of points as the Rangers with 2 more games played. Pittsburgh has 1 point fewer with 3 more games played, but they've won 4 in a row. Columbus, 25 points. Buffalo, 25 points. Islanders, 25 points. Ottawa, 24. Detroit, 24. Montreal, 23. There's no Blackhawks or Predators in this mix where, like, they're just dead. Like, Montreal could win 5 in a row and be in the conversation, even though they're dead last in the conference right now. Mm-hmm. Pittsburgh has won 4 in a row, and they're back in the mix all of a sudden. And guess who Pittsburgh plays next tonight on national TV? The New York Rangers.
Hey, the Hawks play the Rangers on
Monday.
Night, on your birthday.
Yeah, exactly. Which I'm excited for that. It'd be so funny if Sorensen's first win as the coach of the Blackhawks, because I'm not going to predict they beat Winnipeg, even though I think they could, because like you pointed out, they have played better teams better. I'm beating the Rangers for his first win would be great. But yeah, it's not. The Rangers can have a disappointing season and still be the 8th seed. Because I don't love Philly. Matvei Michkov has kept them in more games than they've deserved to be in. And you want to know an astounding stat? Every team currently holding a playoff spot has over 10 regulation wins. Every team under the playoff line has fewer than 10. The Flyers, who are the first team below, have 5. Half. That's crazy.
That's messed up.
I do think the 8 teams holding a playoff spot right now are going to be the 8 teams that hold it. The only team from below, I never doubt Sidney Crosby. I think the Penguins stink, but when Sidney Crosby's on the team, there's almost like it feels like there's a higher power sometime. More than a man, but less than a god. And then Columbus is playing with Fire. I don't know why they would want Jacob Trouba. That's my prediction on where he's playing by the end of today.
The Penguins?
No, Columbus.
Oh.
I don't know why they'd want him. He stinks. But we'll see. Maybe it's like an extra push, a little extra juice in his game and theirs.
Surprised if the Rangers missed the playoffs.
Yeah, okay, but which of these teams below get in? Philly, Pittsburgh, Columbus, Buffalo.
Buffalo's hot right now.
Pittsburgh's hot right now. Every time Buffalo seems like they're going to do something. What did they win 5 in a row? And having a 4-1 lead over the Colorado Avalanche in the third period. Are you kidding me? You lose that game in regulation? No way. And then yesterday you're beating Winnipeg 2-1 and then you lose. What are you doing, Buffalo? I'm so tired of Buffalo sucking. I want Buffalo, and I know one day they're going to make the playoffs and beat the Devils in a 7-game series. Oh, are you happy Buffalo finally made? I don't care. I want Buffalo to make it because I don't think the Devils would lose to them, especially right now. But if the Bills don't win the Super Bowl, dude, I'm going to send a charity basket to the city of Buffalo. I feel bad for these people. They're some of the best sports fans in the world. Please, Josh Allen, save Buffalo. I want Buffalo to be in the Super Bowl, so I might be rooting for them harder than you.
I don't know about that, but
if they make it to the Super Bowl, I'm eating chicken wings the entire game. And they haven't been in the Super Bowl in my lifetime, and I just want them to make it so bad. And I want Buffalo Sabres fans to finally. That's the best market in the U.S.
Same owners. The Pagulas.
Yeah, they stink. Josh Allen is the reason they lucked into Josh Allen. They're lucky. Kind of like the bad Blackhawks lucking into Taves and Kane and Keith. Not lucking, but lucking into Dale Talon, who drafted them all. I want the Sabres. I wholeheartedly think that's the best market in the U.S. Buffalo.
It'd be interesting. Who makes the playoffs first, Buffalo or the Hawks?
If it's not Buffalo,
the odds would have to say Buffalo. But
if it's not Buffalo, that's I don't know. That's a joke. If the Blackhawks finish out this season, probably have another top 3 pick. Maybe they get lucky and get Higgins, and then they hire Woodcroft or something, and they get in the playoffs before Buffalo.
That'd be crazy. They go through a whole rebuild before Buffalo even sniffs the playoffs.
I mean, I'd rather be on the beat for a winning team, so I'm not going to be mad if that happens. But I'll be mad for Buffalo. I just want them to. What a joke. We're hockey fans. And we got teams like from Florida and Las Vegas winning the Stanley Cup. But Buffalo, cold-ass, snowy Buffalo, can't get in the playoffs for 20 goddamn years. What a joke. What a joke. I can't believe what's going on. And they'll probably trade Tage Thompson and Rasmus Dahlin for Trouba or some shit. Like, I don't get...
Buffalo don't make the big moves.
They make the big moves. They give elite players to other... Frank,
that's what I'm saying. They got elite players, but they don't get elite players. That's the problem here. They don't make those moves.
Is Ryan O'Reilly a Stanley Cup champion?
Yeah.
Is Sam Reinhart a Stanley Cup champion?
Yeah.
Is Jack Eichel
on Buffalo, though.
Is Jack Eichel a Stanley Cup champion?
Yeah.
Is Evan Rodriguez a Stanley Cup champion?
Listen, they give away players.
Elite players that are underperforming for them, and then they go somewhere else and live up to their draft status.
Hawks did it too.
But the Hawks won 3 cups in 6 years.
Yeah, I get it. It's different, but it's like they just...
And they even won a fake playoff round in the bubble.
But nobody goes to Buffalo. It's like Buffalo develops these guys and gives them away. It's like almost a farm, but nobody comes to Buffalo. They're not signing Steven Stamkos in the offseason. Steven Stamkos never going to Buffalo in a million years. They don't make those moves, is what I'm saying.
That's their fault.
Right, that's what I'm saying. It's their fault, their problem. They don't do the hard grind that they need to do. Imagine if they had Jack Eichel and Sam Reinhart, and then they went and get somebody else in free agency. But nobody goes to Buffalo in free agency.
Yeah,
or trade. And they don't make a trade for that guy.
And I bring up Ryan O'Reilly, like they got Tage Thompson out of the Ryan O'Reilly trade, like that worked out for them. But like, I don't know if Tage Thompson is so good, and Rasmus Dahlin is so good, and Ukko
I like their
Pekka
defense.
is so good. Their defense is
goaltending.
decent. Luukkonen is awesome. Yeah, their forward group isn't good enough. And they're just weak-minded. Obi-Wan Kenobi would be able to walk in and say, these are not the droids you're looking for. And they would go, these are not the droids we're looking for. And he could walk in and use the Force and say, move along. And then the Buffalo Sabres will go, move along, move along. Just like in freaking Star Wars, when Obi-Wan Kenobi and Luke go into the city before going into Cantina Bar, and freaking that's freaking the Buffalo Sabres. They're weak-minded stormtroopers. These are not the droids you're looking for. These are not the. Or you could even go to Episode 7. You will remove these restraints and leave this cell with the door open. I will remove these restraints and leave the cell with the door open. And drop your weapon. And drop my weapon. That's Buffalo. They're weak-minded. Dumb.
I agree.
Pisses me off. Every year, the ratings from the Stanley Cup Final come out. And it's only American cities that show because that's who gets TNT or ESPN, depending on the year, or NBC back in the day. It always goes Buffalo, city that's in the final, Boston, Minnesota. Every year. So let's say the Blackhawks are playing the Lightning. The ratings in the Stanley Cup Final will go Buffalo, Chicago, Tampa Bay, Minnesota, Boston. No matter what. They're always number one. It's a fan base that deserves a good hockey team, and it makes me angry that they stink. This all came from the Jacob Trouba stuff that we got onto this Buffalo rant, but what a joke. What's that?
Their newest soon-to-be member, Jacob.
Nah, I mean, I said that as a joke. I hope not.
I know.
I truly hope not.
Can you imagine?
Yes. I can imagine anything terrible for Buffalo. What's Buffalo's next game? It's time to go on a run. What's their next game? On Saturday, December the 7th, they host the Utah Hockey Club for some noon action. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Utah's going to go in there and destroy them with their AHL defense that they have after all those injuries that they had. I like Utah's forward group, but their defense is too injured, and I don't see a reason to make a move for anybody to kind of save the season. Like, there's no point.
Kind of got a tough December.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Frank, we got to run through this stuff where we took a lot of time on that. Let's quickly go through the Four Nations face-off rosters in period number 2. All right, Frank. Welcome to period number 2, where we're going to go over the Four Nations face-off rosters, and we are going to start with Team Finland. I'm pulling up the roster right now. Excuse me for not.
Put it on the screen?
Yeah, you could absolutely put it on the screen. That would be amazing. For Team Finland, you have at forward Sebastian Aho, Eric Halla, Anton Lundell, Joel Armia, Rupe Hintz, Eetu Luostarinen, Alexander Barkov, Capo Kakko, Mikko Rantanen, Mikael Granlund, Patrick Laine, Teuvo Teravainen, Arturi Lehkonen. On defense, you have Jani Hakanpää, Esa Lindell, Rasmus Ristolainen, Miro Heiskanen, Olli Maato, Juuso Valimaki, Nico Mikkola, and the goalies are Kevin Lankinen, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, and Jussi Staros. Frank, what's your reaction to this team? Maybe a couple breakdowns, something you like, a snub from Finland maybe? I think Finland and Sweden don't have any snubs.
No, not really. There's a lot
in the U.S. too. But what's your kind of breakdown of this Finnish roster?
Yeah, I mean, if I had to choose a snub, but it's not really a snub. I'm trying to just like grasping at straws. Jonas Korpisalo is never going to make the cut based on the other 3 goalies here, but he's been great. I was kind of shitting on him early on, doing some other research. He's been good. He was good when Swayman was out. Yeah. He was good, and he actually has the second most experience in the NHL when it comes to Finnish goaltenders. But yeah, he was never going to make the cut over these guys. I mean, their weak point is Probably their defense. They got some good guys in defense, though. I like Miro Heiskanen, Ristolainen's good, but other than that, they got their weak on defense.
It's the worst decor of the four.
It's the worst decor of the four. Teuvo Teravainen, the only Blackhawk to make the Four Nations, he plays on forward group. The offense. Once again, the offense is subpar too. I think their biggest strengths are goaltending, to be honest with you.
Yes. I think they have the second best goaltending, the worst defenseman, and the third best forward group. So they're with all that in mind, they're an underdog. They're an underdog. Would I fall off my chair if Finland won any hockey tournament ever? No. If they won the Olympics in 2026, I would not be surprised. It's been done before. Finland wins all the time. They win World Juniors every couple years. They win World Championships every couple years. They're not Canada and the U.S. in terms of favorites every year, no matter what. But they're right there with Sweden. Czechia's not in this tournament. Russia's not in this tournament. But those are the big five, or the big six, I guess you could say. And they have a chance every time. Like if Ukko Pekka-Luukkonen or UC Saros got real hot in net and Barkov and Rantanen just went on a tear for a week and they won the gold, it wouldn't shock me. Their depth up front is where they fall off a little bit compared to the other countries. So Barkov is one of the best centers in the NHL and Rantanen is one of the best wingers in the NHL. But Team USA doesn't have a forward like Erik Haula or Teuvo Teravainen or Eetu Luostarinen. These are all great players, all stars. Haula's great in the playoffs. I think he'll help them on the back check, win a big face-off if they're up a goal late. Hakanpää's good. I like Nico Mikkola with Florida. He was a big part of their D last year. When he's your number 5 D, you're great. They only have 2 guys on this team, on this defense, that are on their current NHL team's top pair. One of them is Miro Heiskanen because, he's one of the best in the NHL. The other is Olli Mata, who's only on Utah's top pair because they have like 4 guys out for the season with injury. So other than that, it's a couple second pair, third pair guys. Lankinen's a great story. He's been great for Vancouver. I'm so happy he's able to realize his dream. I don't even really think the Hawks tweaked. He was never staying with them. They're not even his most recent team. It's Vancouver that helped him find his stride. And I don't think he'd be this good on the Blackhawks. He'd be one of the assholes giving up a shit ton of goals because they can't defend in front of him. So he had a really good, career move going to Vancouver, and I'm happy for him. It makes when Demko comes back real interesting. But yeah, it's a good team. I think they beat any NHL team in a 7-game series because it's a group of all-stars. But comparing them to the rest of the countries, I have them as the 4th ranked team. They are my 4th favorite out of the 4.
Okay.
Do you agree? We're not making predictions. We'll do that when we get there. But ranking the rosters right now, you'd rank them 4? Or what? You don't have to say who you'd put ahead or below. You just say the number out of the 4.
Yeah, I think I'd go with 4.
All right. And next we'll go with Sweden. Team Sweden. At forward is Victor Arvidsson, Filip Forsberg, Gustav Nyquist, Jesper Blatt, William Karlsson, Elias Pettersson, Leo Carlsson, Adrian Kempe, Lucas Raymond, Joel Eriksson-Ek, Elias Lindholm, Mika Zibanejad, William Nylander, Rasmus Andersson, Rasmus Dahlin, Victor Hedman, Jonas Brodin. Oh, these are the defense that I'm naming, by the way, right now. Jonas Brodin, Matthias Ekholm, Erik Karlsson, Gustav Forsling. The goalies are Filip Gustafsson, Jacob Markstrom, and Linus Allmark. I tried to put my best Swedish accent on all these names. I do say Jacob Markstrom normally, but I know when we're reading it in Finnish or in Swedish, it's Jakob Markstrom. But yeah, what's your thoughts on this team?
Well, comparing them to the Finnish team, right away, goaltending, huge increase. Filip Gustafsson, this dude he's Vezina caliber. He is having an unreal year. Jacob Markstrom helped turn the Devils around. Linus Allmark is not having a terrible year himself either. I really like this team, but then again, I'll say this now. they're the third best team. They're not better than Canada or the United States, in my opinion. They got some strong pieces on forward. I think they got a healthy balance. When you look at the forward, defensemen, goaltenders, I think there's a healthy balance down the line. I think they're going to be a force to be reckoned with. I really do. I don't think they'll win it all, but I think they're going to be very competitive.
I I ranked Finnish goaltending second. You can argue that this one's second. I'll put them. I'll put them third, just because I'd like to see a little more. And the Finnish guys have Vesna trophies, and Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen is like on this awesome tear. So I'll give Finns the edge in goalie, but barely, and that's saying something because one of the Swedish goalies is a devil. I love their defense. That right there is a high end defense.
It's a good defense.
Their forward group, though, I think is the worst of the four. Jesper Bratt leads all Swedish forwards in points so far this season. And I think only Bratt and Filip Forsberg are the only... Oh, and William Nylander. And Peterson. Sometimes Peterson. Are the only truly elite forwards.
Yeah.
They're the only forwards that I think would crack Team USA or Canada if they were eligible. There's some youth with Leo Carlsson and Lucas Raymond. But
I got a problem with this list, too. I want to get off my chest. I forgot to mention. Now that I'm looking at him. Gustav Nyquist should not be on this team.
Who makes it over him, though?
William Eklund should have made it over.
Okay.
I mean, he's having a breakout year. He's on pace for roughly 70 points.
I love Eklund.
I do, too. I get the kid's young, but if you want the best players representing your country from this season, you should have had Eklund in over Gustav Nyquist. Gustav Nyquist is on pace for like maybe 30 points, maybe. I mean, that's not even half of how Eklund's been performing this year. I think it was very, very, very poor decision making.
Absolutely. It makes you wonder if the decision was made to have him on before this year started.
It could have,
because Nyquist was great last year.
Last year, it was great.
Yeah.
But this year,
you could make that change, though. It wasn't too late. They weren't due till December 1st.
William Eklund definitely deserves it over Nyquist. He's been,
and you could kind of give up. Yeah, you could kind of give up some of Nyquist's defense for offense from Eklund, because you got guys like Joel Eriksson Ek, who's stout defensively. Same thing with Lindholm. Zibanejad's still fine defensively. Kempe is good defensively. Wild Bill is still outstanding defensively. So it's not like the forward group is lacking those shutdown type guys that can also produce offense. So I got Sweden as the third best team in the.
I agree.
All right, let's go with Canada. At Canada, at forward, you have Sam Bennett, Anthony Cirelli, Sidney Crosby, Brandon Hagel, Seth Jarvis, Travis Konechny, Nathan McKinnon, Brad Marchand, Mitch Marner, Connor McDavid, Braden Point, Sam Reinhart, and Mark Stone. On defense, you have Cale Makar, Josh Morrissey, Colton Parayko, Alex Pietrangelo, Travis Sanheim, Shea Theodore, and Devin Taves. And at goalie, you have Jordan Binnington, Aiden Hill, and Sam Montembeault. Frank?
First of all, the goaltending is the worst of any team. Jordan Binnington, Aiden Hill, Sam Montembeault. That is horrible goaltending for Team Canada, in my opinion. I think it's the worst of the four. You got a great offense. You got Brad Marchand, Mitch Marner, Nathan McKinnon, Connor McDavid. This is the all-star Canadian lineup right here. You got some great offense, and you got Cale Makar and Devin Taves, guys who've played with each other on the same team. That's always good. Two top guys. Shea Theodore. I really like Shea Theodore. Morrissey. Defense is very strong as well. Their goaltending, I think, is ultimately what's going to hurt them. I got some snubs here, and I'm sure we're going to agree on these snubs, or at least one. The big one I could see is Evan Bouchard. He hasn't been great, right? But it's statistically proven that when Bouchard is out there on the ice for the Oilers, it boosts their scoring chances and high danger chances. That is proof that is statistically true. He excels when he's playing with elite players on the ice, and this whole Canadian roster has elite players on the roster. So he may not be having as good as a season as he did last year, but to me, it feels like a rough snub. And obviously, there are people saying, "Oh, Connor Bedard didn't make it." Connor Bedard doesn't deserve to make it over these guys. All these guys on this team, they're seasoned. They're performing. Connor Bedard's not having a great year. I mean, I don't know what people want. All these guys on this Canadian forward group are having better seasons. So, but I really like their forward group. I think their Achilles heel is going to be their goaltending.
I wanted Connor Bedard to make it because I think he would perform there. Like if he was on a line with McDavid or McKinnon, I do think he would score.
Absolutely.
But you're right. He doesn't deserve to make it over all the guys that did make it. No. And I think I'm cool with Bouchard not making it because they have Cale Makar and Josh Morrissey for high-end offensive production from the back end. They took Parayko and they took Sanheim and Devin Taves, which is proof that they do want to have guys. They kind of wanted to have some grit on the back end, which Canada has done that in the past, and it's led to gold medals. Like it can't all just be, riverboat gambling out there. Like sometimes you need structure, and they went for it with some of these guys. If I had one snub to pick, I would actually say it's Mark Scheifele. He's been outstanding for Winnipeg this season. I can't wait to see him in person on Saturday tomorrow. But yeah. He's been incredible. But like, who do you take off? Mark Stone? Well, he's a defensively minded winger. When there's a lot of motor on offense on this team, what Sam Bennett and Seth Jarvis have able to do with their careers and kind of like become these like new versions of super pests. You heard Marchand say that he was excited to play with Jarvis because he's kind of like a younger version of himself. So it's going to be interesting to see how that goes. But I do think the way this team has a ton of skill, it's going to help them overcome the issues that they have in net when it comes to not being as strong as some of the other teams. There are people who are like so worried about Canada's goaltending. Is it the worst of the four? Yes, I would rank their goaltending fourth. But I don't care. It doesn't matter. Aiden Hill has won the Stanley Cup. Jordan Binnington has won the Stanley Cup. And Sam Montembeault has been the best of the three so far this season. I do think it's possible that if there's an injury or something, they name Marc-Andre Fleury to the team. He's a guy I probably would have brought just for vibes. Whether it be over Binnington or Montembeault, I don't know who's going to start. There are a lot of people who would claim Montembeault deserves to be the one, even though a lot of people think he probably would be the three.
Will starts, I would think.
I would think so too. But yeah, it's the weak point of the team. But with the guys in front of them that are playing, like, I just really don't see it being that big of an issue.
You're right. They got some good defense in front of them.
And that's the thing. It's not like they're terrible goaltenders. Okay, are they Hellebuck? No.
Even their forward group's got good defensive forwards in there too.
Exactly. And Connor McDavid is so fast. He gets on the back check well. Mitch Marner has been a Selke Trophy nominee before. McKinnon's so fast. Bennett and Hagel and Jarvis and Konechny, they're so hard to play against. There were people getting on Hyman not making it. Zach Hyman, is there anything that Zach Hyman could do that Travis Konechny can't? Like, Travis Konechny is having an unreal season. Honestly, Macklin Celebrini probably deserved to make it over Connor Bedard even so far this year. So, and they went with a little more veteran over youth, and I rank them number one.
Wow, you rank them number one.
I rank them number one.
I got them two.
Okay. And that probably means that I have USA as number two and you have them as number one. Do I think Team USA can win? Absolutely. Let's look at the team. At forward, you have Matt Boldy, Kyle Connor, Jack Eichel, Jake Gensel, Jack Hughes. Jacob Trouba's not on waivers, per Elliot Friedman. Chris Kreider, Dylan Larkin, Austin Matthews, JT Miller, Brock Nelson, Brady Tkachuk, Matthew Tkachuk, Vincent Trocheck. Defenseman Brock Faber, Adam Fox, Noah Hannafin, Quinn Hughes, Charlie McAvoy, Jakob Slavin, and Zach Werenski. And in goal, Connor Hellebuck, Jake Ottinger, Jeremy Swayman.
It's a good team.
It's a very good team.
Good team.
It's a very good team.
Their forward group's not better than Team Canada, but I don't know. I give the edge of defensemen and goaltenders. That's a good team. I don't know. I think they have what it takes to win this whole thing, VP. Some interesting snubs, though. Tage Thompson, obviously. I'm sure you were going to mention him as well. On pace for 50 goals. He's never had a 50-goal season before. And over the past 3 seasons, Tage Thompson is second to Austin Matthews for most goals by an American-born player. I am shocked he didn't make that list. Could you imagine Tage Thompson on this team? He would do wonders. And the other big one that you're probably going to mention too is Cole Caulfield. He has the most goals with 16 of any American this year. And he's doing that on a freaking bad team. He's only a couple goals behind the league lead. To me, those are the 2 biggest snubs, I think, of any country. It doesn't make sense in my eyes. But regardless, like if they had those guys on offense, I don't know who first of all, you probably snub Kreider. Get him out of there. I would rather Tage Thompson or Cole Caulfield over Kreider. And the other one's kind of tough, to be honest with you, but it's a good group of guys. I'm looking forward to it. It's a good group.
Vinny Trocheck was great last year, and I'm sure he had an edge coming into the season because of the way he played last year. But
get rid of Trocheck and Kreider.
Yeah, I mean, and Kreider will be he'll actually probably be the 13th forward. I don't know if he'll play all that much, but Tage Thompson and Cole Caulfield are the 2 leading goal scorers of American-born players.
I know.
And they're not on the team. So I think Thompson's tied with Connor, who is on the team, but you get my point. It's crazy that they didn't make it. Jack Eichel and Jack Hughes are the 2 leading scorers amongst American-born players so far this season. It's a really good team, and I'll be rooting for them. Obviously, my boy Hughes. Very excited to see him play with his brother Quinn again. That'll be really, really cool. But until I'm proven wrong, like last time I went in so hard thinking that Team USA would be dominant in the World Cup of Hockey, and they went 0-3. And like it was the most embarrassing thing I've ever seen. So I'm not crazy about some of the decision. They didn't go all skill. And I would have loved if they put their, ego to the side and just went all skill and went into the tournament saying, okay, Canada, we're right there with you in terms of skill. But this feels like a similar philosophy to 2016 when they did the World Cup of Hockey. And the goal was to beat Canada. That was what the roster was built for. The roster was put together to beat Canada. You got smoked by them. It wasn't close. Bring more skill. On defense, I'm fine with who they brought. Werenski, Hughes, probably their 2 best right now. Hannafin's probably the extra. It wouldn't shock me if him and Faber rotate as the extra. But we'll see how that goes. Snubs, obviously, we named him. I don't think Nick Suzuki was ever in contention, even though I think the fact that the tournament is half in Montreal is the only reason he was brought up at all. But Cole Caulfield, that's a snub. I mean, his literal nickname is Goal Caulfield. Matt Boldy, Bill Guerin went on Spit and Chicklets and said he believes Matt Boldy can be a 50-50 guy. 50 goals, 50 assists. That wouldn't shock me if that ever ends up happening. I do wonder if Matt Boldy makes it over Tage Thompson if any other GM besides the Wild's GM was the GM of Team USA. And obviously Kreider has ties to Minnesota as well. I do think there is some biases towards some of these rosters, but that's what you get when you have NHL guys picking these teams.
There's always going to be a little bit bias, right? Subconsciously, no matter. I feel like who's running the team.
Absolutely.
I'm looking forward to it.
For sure. So it sounds like Frankie ranks them USA, Canada, Sweden, Finland, and I rank them Canada, USA, Sweden, Finland. And I just Maybe I have battle scars of just being burned over and over and over and over and over again rooting for our team USA. But I have a real hard time putting my faith in them.
If
So
USA could limit the forwards of the Canadians, then
that's the thing, man. You have freaking
they'll be
Connor
all right
McDavid.
then.
You have Connor McDavid, Nathan McKinnon, and Cale Makar on that team. The only forwards, Jack Hughes is up there, Austin Matthews is up there, Jack Eichel's up there. As far as skaters, though, if those three all negate the other three, then who has the edge? Then you have Braden Point and Sidney Crosby and stuff like that. And on the U.S., you start to fall off to guys like, Kyle Connor, Jake Gensel, Chris Kreider. I just think the Braden Point is like the 7th best forward on team. No, he's not the 7th best forward. He's like the 4th best forward on Team Canada. But like he'd probably be the 2nd or 3rd best forward on Team USA. And just
that's what's the beauty of it, is that you got to play the game.
Yep.
And they can do it.
They can. And they have Hellebuck, who the way he's played in the playoffs worries me because this is like a little playoff tournament. But Ottinger's played really well in the playoffs, and so has Swayman. So I'm not. People are just crowning Hellebuck the starting goalie for this. I'm like, yeah, at first. But we'll see. I want our guys to. I love these jerseys too. I want a Hughes one so bad, so bad. If anyone's looking to buy me a birthday present or a Christmas present, a Hughes USA jersey. But yeah, this team is going to be cool. I'm excited for the tournament. We'll have shows dedicated to this tournament, so I'm really excited for it. Frank, I think we have to end the show in period number 3. With America's favorite podcast segment of the week, Breaking Bets.
Where's my money, bitch?
Before we get into Breaking Bets, a little update from Pierre LeBrun. Jacob Trouba was not placed on waivers today by the New York Rangers. Rangers still trying to get a Trouba trade done. Hearing the Ducks are still among the teams in the trade conversation, but hearing the Blue Jackets are out. So that leaves the Ducks and the Red Wings as the original teams that were in the conversation to begin with.
So did you lie to me?
No. I updated you based on more modern information.
Okay. That's all I wanted to hear.
I mean, I don't lie. I go by... If I told you right now that the year is 2002, I would be lying. But there is a point in time that when I said that to you, I would have been correct. Information changes, things update.
You're right. Can't argue with that.
America's favorite podcast segment of the week. Here's Frank Mueller.
3 picks, starting with the NHL tonight. Give me one sec. Got a good game tonight. Late game, but good game. We got the Dallas Stars and the Vegas Golden Knights, 2 Titans in the NHL. These 2 teams always seem to play each other tough. This is their first meeting since the postseason last year, where Dallas pulled out a series win in a tight 7-game series where the Stars won Game 7 2-1. Both of these teams are playing great hockey at the moment, but I'm going to give the slight edge to the Vegas Golden Knights, who are looking to get a bit of revenge over the Stars from their postseason exit. The Vegas Golden Knights also have one of the best home records in the NHL. They're 10-3 at home, and I think they get it done in the Fortress tonight. Vegas Golden Knights money line -110, bet to win 2 units. College football pick. We're in championship season for college football. A lot of you guys probably won't be watching this championship college football game. We got Western Kentucky at Jacksonville State. It's a Conference USA championship. Nothing major here, but I'm going with Jacksonville State money line. I don't normally give out picks with a lot of juice, but to me, this is a must take. They're -198 on the money line. It actually has kind of dropped a little bit. I think they're down to like 180 now. But what I saw when I did this, they were minus 198. These two teams played last week, where Western Kentucky needed to win the game to advance to the Conference USA Championship, which meant the game really didn't mean anything for Jacksonville State because they were in here regardless. Western Kentucky needed to win. Their lives were on the line to get here. This is a rematch. And after Western Kentucky pulled out a victory with a huge game-winning field goal with no time left on the clock, this is a revenge game for Jacksonville State, a team that just picked up their first loss in conference play last week to Western Kentucky. This nearly always happens in big games like this, rematch games. In any sport where the losing team gets revenge, especially where there is a championship on the line, it just Jacksonville State's going to get the revenge and win this game. It's just I love spots like this when you're looking for a pick. Jacksonville State money line minus 198. Bet to win 10 units. Whatever your max is, it's the max of the week. Finally, NFL Sunday, we got the Cleveland Browns and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Steelers host the Browns. You got to get this line in right now. From what I saw, it was 7.5, the under for the first quarter. First quarter under 7.5 for the Browns and Steelers. Browns had their little offensive burst last week when they scored 32 points against Denver. Denver's got a good defense. They got all that out last week against the Broncos. Besides that game, the Browns have been struggling to score points. And this Steelers team has a very, very good defense that matches up very well against the Browns offense. The first matchup of the year between these two, there were 0 points scored in the first quarter. That game was in Cleveland. It's going to be even harder for Cleveland to score points in Pittsburgh. And you can't always expect there to be no score all the time when these two meet up, obviously. But I can't see there being more than 7.5 points in the first quarter. I'm expecting a low game overall. So I like under 7.5 points for the first quarter in the Browns-Steelers games at minus 115. Bet to win 3 units.
Love it, Frank. Good stuff. Really quick on the Chicago Bears. Anybody who thinks that they're going to get a bump from firing the coach and beat San Francisco over the weekend, God bless your soul. God bless your soul. Oh, but every team gets the firing the coach bump. You think the Bears are like every other team? What? And now they're listing DJ Moore and DeAndre Swift as questionable. That's per Adam Schefter as of 1 minute ago. Their injury report is stacked. Their injury report could win the Super Bowl, I think. It's nasty right now. And I'm excited to see Caleb play. That's all I'll be looking for. Frank, I actually have a feeling I'm going to see you on Sunday now that I really think about it.
Yep.
And then the game's not till after. So maybe we could do something for that.
Yeah, I got nothing planned. I don't think.
We can look into that. But I'm not excited for the outcome of the game. I think San Francisco's desperate. They have a chance to make it still somehow, and the Bears don't. So as long as Caleb plays well, though, I don't care. But God bless everybody who thinks that they have a chance because they fired the coach.
That's right.
I am not picking them to win. But Frank, great show. Great show. I loved breaking down the news in the NHL and the Four Nations face-off. We got a lot of great stuff coming up with hockey, so absolutely. Very excited. Great show. Is there anything you got to get off your chest before we move out?
Nope.
Very, very good. Tomorrow, I will be at United Center to check out the Winnipeg Jets taking on the Chicago Blackhawks. So make sure you're following me at Vinnie Parisi on Twitter, and make sure you're following at the King Bean on Twitter.com to keep up with everything going on in the world of the Blackhawks and all of his favorite TV shows. He's doing a great job. Frank, hope you have a great weekend. Hope you have a great rest of your night. Enjoy the hockey. Go Devils tonight against the Seattle Kraken. And as always, thank you for listening.